Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of ACB Caribbean Coaches View. On this program, we interact with coaches right across Antigua and Barbuda, have a chat with them about what they're doing, why they coach, and what's going on in their respective sports, and coaching right across Antigua and Barbuda. But before we introduce our two guests this afternoon, we're going to tell you that ACB Caribbean is our platinum sponsor for this program. We also have sponsoring us Plumbing and Electrical Limited. For all your electrical and plumbing needs, make sure you visit them out there bordering on the Herbert's Main Road. And there is Seco Pharmacy for all your pharmaceutical and medicinal needs. You check them out right there on High Street. And Zen's Body and Skin Care. So do check them out. They are our sponsors and they keep us going, so make sure you support them. We're going to introduce our two guests this afternoon. We have on the further end of the table is Oslin Pigeon Gregory, a well-known basketball coach here in Antigua and Barbuda, works with the Ministry of Sports. Very, very good job. And assisting him very, very well is Guy Yearwood
Jr.
Guy Yearwood Jr. Obviously, we know the senior very well. And we just want to welcome you to Coaches View.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Right. And we're going to go straight into our coaching skill for today. Just have a look and at what we do is that we have 10 coaching skills for our coaches out there and the people who are listening and viewing. And what we do, we go through them over and over, just so that our coaches can understand some of the skills that we need in terms of making our job more efficient. And today we're looking at how to explain. And that is very important. Coaches have to explain, they have to do that, and they have to do that very well, because that is how they are going to make sure that the people who they're coaching, boys and girls, men and women, understand exactly what is it that they need to do. And so the first point in explaining is plan what to say. So that's the first thing when you want to explain something. Make sure you plan what you want to say, so that you don't have to fumble when the people are ready to hear. You don't remember, you don't have anything to say. Plan what you have to say. That's the first part. Secondly, gain attention before starting. Make sure everyone is paying attention, everyone is attentive and listening. Then point number 3 in how to explain, keep it simple. Especially when we're dealing with children. We don't want to be talking for half an hour and then when you finish you don't even remember the first thing you said. So plan what to say, gain their attention, keep it simple. And the fourth one, invite questions and check for understanding. So once we finish explaining, we make sure that they understand what is it that we just explained by asking them a simple question. And what is it that we said we're going to do today again? Oh, coach, you said that we're going to practice shooting. And you say, good. Then we know that they got it. And so those are the 4 points that we look at in how to explain. So gentlemen, I really want to say very good having you guys here. And we're going to start with you, Mr. Gregory. Mm-hmm. You've been in the Ministry of Sports now for how
long? 21 years.
21 years. Mm-hmm. And tell the people who are listening here and who are watching us, why you went into coaching? Just tell us why you went into coaching.
Number one, as you know, I was a former player, national player. And I just decided, well, after having numerous jobs like in the airline industry and stuff like that, I never felt like I fit in, and I decided, well, let me try to get into coaching and try to give back. But it goes beyond just giving back. I started to develop the passion, and I started to see, well, kids have been neglected, the sport have been neglected, coaches taking, shortcut and stuff like that, and I just decided, well, let me do this and see how it worked out, and it worked out fine. I started to get, emotionally attached to the work, to the coaching, and physically attached to coaching, and then I started to get dedicated by watching, other coaches and see how they do their program. I can take you, for example, or Ian Tittle, or even Shafto, because my stuff is based upon how other coaches work and see the dedication that they put in. And I always want to be like that coach. I always want to be like that player. Even Michael Jordan, I know he put in a lot, and I've seen a lot of players here put in a lot, and I've seen the benefit. So I always wanted to be like that.
Mr. Yearwood, tell us your story. Why coaching?
Well, sports has always been a part of my life from a very early age. I mean, I can remember the first time I got to play American football. That was like one of the first things I played with my older brother, who was 10 years older than me, playing with him and his friends. And over the years, I've played various different sports. Outside of basketball, I've also played American football, rugby, volleyball. I was a wrestling champion at one point. There are a lot of things in sports, so I got a lot from being part of so many different sports, and it's helped me and it's prepared me a lot well for life. So I decided, I was teaching for a while before I actually committed to coaching, but while I was teaching, I was coaching. And after I decided to change the direction I was going, I decided that coaching would have been better. It'll allow me to get to the kids in a way where because when you're teaching them, a lot of time you're teaching them something they don't really want to learn. But you figure, well, with sports, it's something that they're going to want to do. So it's a lot easier to tap into their minds and to get them aware of certain things and prepare them for life in the future. You know what I mean? So, as he said, it's a way to help give back. And it's fun,
We know as coaches, we know it is fun. We know we're teaching life skills, and we see the positive impact that coaching has on the young boys and girls. But tell me, Gregory, are we taken seriously?
No, I don't think so.
Tell me, talk to me about that.
The fact is that I don't know how to say this, but the coaches, we are one of the pillars of the community.
Tell us your story. Tell us from Pigeon Gregory experience. Tell us what you see, because other coaches have other experiences.
Right. Well, my experience is it wasn't really all that at first, because I've been working in certain communities and I haven't gotten the support. And without that support from that community, the school, the parents, your program ain't going to go nowhere. So I decided, well, I need to transfer into that community. I've heard of you guys, and I heard you help out all the other sporting events in the community. And I said, I want to be a part of that community. I want to work in that community. So that's when I asked for that transfer, and then take off from there. But my experiences as a coach, as I said before, it didn't start off well, and then you got to build gradually, watching other coaches, see how they prepare, and it worked out fine for me.
What about you, Guy? You think we're taking serious? When you look, you get up every morning, you make sure that you go, you prepare. The little boys and little girls, they come, you put in the hard work, then they go home. When they go to play, you hear good things about them. But do you think that as a coach, and it doesn't have to be an individual or an establishment, right across Antigua, do you think that the coaches are taken seriously?
I think it's kind of a mixed bag, if you can understand. You know what I mean? Like, I think that Antiguans take sports seriously, but what we don't do is we don't respect what it takes to get the sports to a certain level. So a lot of us coaches, we don't have all the resources that we need in order to achieve the kind of changes that they expect to see. You know what I mean? But yet we're still expected to go out every day and do our jobs. So to me, that's not really taking it seriously per se. I guess but at the end of the day, the people that are sending us out, they have an agenda that they have to fulfill. So they think they're taking it seriously. But they're not looking at what is necessary for us to do our jobs necessary and making sure that they provide that for us so that things can happen at a better rate.
I think we are taken for granted, you know, by the wider community and stuff like that, because we put in a lot. I've seen coaches out there 6 o'clock in the morning field, changing the way how their kids think, you know, just doing the work out there. And I think that we're not taken for granted. You know, we're taken for granted. We're not taken serious. That's what I should have said in the first. You know, there's more that can be done. As for me, when you talk about community, I got the support of the community that I work in. You know, so I can say, as he says, a mixed bag. Outside of that community, which is Liberta, I'm not taken as seriously as, you know, but Liberta, they take me serious. So it's a kind of mixed bag.
The other component where we have problems with coaching and sports, and I know they know under one ministry. You have the Ministry of Education and Sports. I also believe there should be more buy-in. I think just like how a student have to go to school and they have to do maths and English, I believe that sporting component should be tying there somewhere. Personally, I don't like the fact that sports is treated as an extra curriculum.
Right.
I don't think sports is an extra curriculum. I think sports is education, and I think sports and education should be separated and just use education, because sports is a part of education.
Yes.
And I would like to hear your views on that. Maybe that is where we're wrong. Maybe we need to look at it differently and make sports a mandate where a parent can say to a coach, my daughter isn't playing basketball because she didn't do well in maths. How about if she didn't do well in sports, the maths teacher comes and says, look, she's not going to do maths. How would the parents take it? I would like to hear your views.
And that's one of the things that I always try to educate my parents. Stop saying because someone not doing better in maths, you're going to take them away from basketball. And as you say, it should be separated. And they think, well, sports hamper education, which I don't find. All the research that I've done, I've never find nothing. As a matter of fact, it enhances education. So I try to educate my parents, and I try to make, like for instance, I would say, look at the kids. Let's take a good look at the kids. See who study. You take away from basketball, and see who stay in the basketball, and those that stay, because we have that stuff in school. Those that stay in basketball, let's see if they do better. And most of the times they do better in their exams. So as you say, it's just that we have to educate the parents.
Guy?
Well, I mean, personally, I think our education system, like we have a very outdated education system right now. I mean, maybe England is still doing what we're doing as far as CXCs and all that stuff, but when you look at the rest of Europe, they've already, a lot of countries, especially the Nordic countries, they've moved past testing and all of this stuff because they've come to realize that humans are more well-rounded than just how they can answer on a test, right? So if you really want to get the education system going, not only should sports be mandated or be mandatory, meaning like every child should be participating in some sport, they should also be doing some kind of art, whether it's music or dance or anything. I mean, in Antigua, we love to focus on you have to be doctor and lawyer and this and that, but there's more to life than just being a doctor and a lawyer. You know what I mean? And you need more well-rounded children, and a lot of that comes from sports. With sports, you have fitness and health, which is part of when they're trying to get educated. Sometimes we, you know what I mean, like right now we have this thing with special needs being a big part of education, figuring out who has special needs and who doesn't. How about we get the kids to run off some of the energy off in the sun, and then when they come into class now they're ready to sit down and listen and do work.
Totally agree.
You understand?
And I have always asked the kids myself, how do you feel sometime when you're in the classroom and you feel sleepy and tired and worn out? and you haven't done anything for the day, is because your lack of sports, some kind of sporting activity. As you were saying about mandate, I think it should be mandated. Because, you know, and I think our headmaster and headmistress should be educated, because we have headmasters and headmistresses anti-sport. As soon as you walk in the school, they say, no, we're not playing any sports. And they don't understand how important sport is to their
Now, two things that I want to mention on, and I want us to have a look at this. The young man Fleming that won the goal at the Carifta Games, I understand he have 19 subjects.
Wow.
Now, I can guarantee you, if we were to ask him, what would you give up, your 19 subjects or the Carifta gold medal? Which one you think he would give up?
The subject.
The subject.
Because with that, right, he can use that sport and go anywhere he wants. He can use that medal because of the popularity he gained and all that. He can use that and go anywhere or do anything he wanted to do. So as you say, sport is as important as education.
The other thing, and you spoke about that, I always have an issue with the policy, the school policy. Who set the rules? What I can't understand is that all schools, government primary schools, starts at 3, at 9, ends at 3. Am I right?
Yes, you're right.
All secondary schools starts at 8, finishes at
1:30.
1:30. Who handed that down? That came from the ministry.
That came from the ministry.
Policy.
Yeah.
So no principal can turn up today and say, look, school start at 10 and finish at 4.
4, right.
That's not going to cut it. The ministry says, hey, you can't change that.
Right.
Why is it that the principal can decide if the school participates in sports? Shouldn't that be a policy coming on from the ministry?
Right.
To say, hey, each school must participate in, and you give the minimum and
Right.
say, minimum 5 sporting events organized by the ministry or whatever number. But you put that and say, you must. This is a part of it. This is just like saying school start at 9 o'clock.
Right.
You can't change that. If they want to do more, fine, but this is the minimum.
Right.
Why is it that principals are still determining whether or not the school participates in sports?
Because as the ministry is not coming down on them. I mean, because one headmistress told me, oh, they're not participating this in sports. I said, well, I'm going to talk to the ministry and I'm going to let them know that this is what you say and look out for a call from them. So when I walk out the office, no, she called me back and said they're playing. So the ministry itself don't know the power that they carry. I mean, as I was saying, they should come down on the schools and let them know. That's why we appoint a coach at your school to do basketball, do cricket, do football. If you are saying that they can't perform their duty, then I'm going to have a problem with that. You understand?
What are some of the challenges you face in coaching? You go to coach every day. What are some of the things as a coach guy that you would like to see change so that coaching in general, whether it's in the schools, whether it is in the community, you know, could have a bigger impact? What are some of the things that you would like to see change?
I mean, you say in general, but for me, I have personal things I need to change.
Right.
So, for example, I coach at Parish Secondary. I'm supposed to be coaching at Parish Primary. There's no basketball court in Parish for me to coach them up there. Right? So I can only manage to deal with the secondary because a lot of them live in Parham, and I can take a couple of them down to Parham and practice down there. So you have a facility problem in a lot of the cases.
Right.
Right? Having, for example, having basketball court near the school helps us immensely. You understand? You have, so I have that problem, and, you know, well, I guess at this point, maybe it would help if the schools started to have their own equipment, because we have a hard time getting equipment from who we're supposed to be getting equipment from. You know what I mean? So we're always scrambling around for equipment. So things like that need to be addressed. The school bus system, right? So at one point I was coaching down by Cobb's Cross, And just to get the bus drivers to take the kids from the school down to the basketball court, which is along the same road, was a big issue. So different things like that. I don't know if they need to set up certain buses specifically for sports or what it is, but that kind of aspect would help for me. And then even some of the kids sometimes even have no shoes.
Well, as a coach, that's one of the tasks that we, the coaches, we're gonna have to play a parent role. But challenges for me, equipment from, my boss. I asked a question yesterday. How do you guys make plan in terms of sport, in terms of equipment? Is it every 2 years? We get new equipment every year. We get new equipment, and that was a question that could never be answered. And it's kind of hard for you as a coach. Want to see your program succeed and move on, have to use that same money that you get it paid to buy equipment. So that's one of the challenges for me. The other challenges is we're not innovative enough. I'm talking about the ministry and the coaches. We should be more innovative. You understand? And because most of the coaches, a lot of the coaches that I know, have a low self-esteem at work because they're not getting what they want to get. And some of these guys are having a hard time in their personal life. And you're asking them now to take, 25% of their salary to get new equipment. So that's the biggest challenge we have. The other challenge, I think coaches should have more input in planning, in the ministry planning. Too many times you see the coordinator don't come and ask the coach as well, what do you think about this? We should implement this, and they're not taking the advice from the coach. Maybe I can talk from my department, really, because as I say, I like one of the unit that I watch is cricket, and they look like they're well organized and they're well prepared and stuff like that. But in my unit, I think we should have more say. Like you're planning for All-Star, you're planning for the season.
Boy, Gregory, I tell you what, boy, I had some of the cricket coaches here, boy, and boy, they wouldn't agree with you at all.
They wouldn't agree. Well, as I said, for what I see, maybe I'm not standing up for 15, 20 minutes watching them, but when I pass, I would see Shafto doing his stuff up there, getting prepared, and I see you most of the time getting prepared.
I guess that when you look, Gregory, if someone was supposed to come out by Liberator one day and see you playing your trade, if they were to judge off that, they would think that basketball, nice, look organized, this man look like he have his thing tied down. That's Gregory doing his thing. And I guess the cricket coaches, they probably are saying the same thing too, that they go and they put in their work. But just like you having an issue where there's no consultation, where we're inside where the operations take place, you don't know what is going on, you just get directions, and you're the one out there in the field, and you know that, hey, but this can't work. So I think that it is a similarity. So looking at someone and seeing what they are doing may not reflect
the bigger picture.
How things are. It may just reflect that this person is organized. This person is committed. But in terms of moving the whole unit and moving the sports in the department, because there is no cohesiveness. And I think sometimes we just got to be very, 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 very careful.
Yeah, and to me that has to do with the leadership a lot of the times. Okay, so I used to run a special needs school, and the way I played the special needs school was the same way I played my double bantam rugby team, which we won 2 championships in a row. Okay, the second year I became captain, and I played a support role because I wasn't necessarily the best player on my team. I was the smartest one though. So what I did was I filled in for what these guys needed to do. And that to me is how the sports department should be run. It should be that the coaches say this is what we want to do, and then our coordinators and the directors, they go out of their way to make it happen for us, as opposed to them trying to dictate to us what needs to happen and not realizing that, well, the pieces aren't, the resources aren't there to make that happen how you guys want. You know what I mean? And then it just becomes a a thing where, as he said, the coaches just lose their focus, lose the momentum, they lose their drive to try and do more. You know what I mean? So to me, it's that management style might need to fix in order for us to move ahead, because a lot of things have changed from how it used to be. You know what I mean? We all have to do with new distraction. The kids have so much distraction with cell phone and all this stuff as well. You know what I mean? So a lot of things need to be dealt with in a different way. They know about so much other things. So, you know, when they see we're having a tournament and, you know, maybe there's no prize announced, that can have an effect, because maybe if you just give them something small, that alone will just make them want to come out and do it. But a lot of them don't understand that. So,
but that's the same thing that I've been trying to say for years now. I'm like, okay, at least give them a certificate saying that, oh, Mr. Guy Yearwood from Artist Comprehensive participate in the 2022 inter-school basketball program, because you know in our league we don't take stats, and you can only give 2 persons can win the prize, or 1 person can win the prize, the MVP and the championship. So we have to go, and that's one of the things that we were discussing yesterday. We have to go above and beyond that, because guess what's going to happen? Are you looking for all scorers, or are you looking for rebounders, defensive players that can steal the ball, that can pass the ball? And we have to start from there, Flipper. We have to start from there, implementing the stats in school and let the other players in them know how important the other stats are in the game. And it would go a long way, as I said, to give them a certificate. And as one of the things that I always say to the schools that win the championship, why don't we put up a billboard with them in the city, let everybody know? Don't you think a parent would feel proud to see their kid on the billboard? Don't you think another child would say, I want to be that next year? And there's simple things that we can do to enhance the sports, and we just dragging our feet.
The other thing that that I want to talk about, and I want us to have a little discussion on this. As coaches working with young people, how do we measure the importance of development, proper skills, proper understanding, teaching the game, as to winning? How do we weigh the balance? Because some coaches are about winning. Mm-hmm. They don't really care. At the end of the day, when they win the championship, if any student continue to play when they finish school or once they win, how do we balance that?
You have to nurture a good person first, and then you nurture a winning athlete second. Your focus always has to be on developing a good younger human being. You can't prioritize winning over them having proper mannerisms and being able to function in society in a proper way, right? And that's, I think, is a big mistake that might be happening, right? We have too much people focus on winning. Some of them really need to learn how to behave more than anything, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like I said, how we deal with them influences how they're going to be years down the line. I never knew that after becoming rugby captain, I would be applying what I did as a captain later on in my life. You understand? So these little things are important. How my coaches dealt with me when I was younger, that's how I deal with them. I remember when I was in grade 8, that's when I was at my peak in basketball. And the coach used to come outside and play basketball with us during break, because it was at a school where he was working at the school too. You know what I mean? And that had a great impact on us and who we are today. So we always have to nurture that first before anything else. And a lot of times now, it's really the athlete that has to decide how far they go with the sport anyways. Because they're the ones that I can tell them what they have to do, but they're the ones that have to do it and have to want to do it and have to do it more. So at the end of the day, that should be your main focus, because if nothing else, at least you know you've turned out a better person in society.
But it strikes me, if I talk to 5 coaches, 3 out of 4 will tell me that they're into development. They are development coaches. And then when you ask them your program, show me a program, they're not developing. they're looking to win this year, and then everything fall apart for the next 2 years. Well, my program is not like that. I started, develop from grade 3, come up. Even at Liberty School, I have 3 teams in Liberty School right now. 1 boy team and 3 girls team, because 2 boys team and 3 girls team, because grade 4 have their own team, grade 5 have their own team, grade 6 have their own team. That grade 6 team, when they left grade 5, take their spot, grade 4, and then when they go to All Saints Secondary, because 90% of them going to go to All Saints Secondary, they fall in the development team, which All Saints got 5 teams right now, 3 boys and 2 girls. So it's not all about winning, and maybe that's why our program, and Mr. Yearwood is trying to do basically that same program too. So that's why our program, even the COVID, most of the coaches say, we get a big hit, I'm going to lose a lot of players. I lose players, but players are there to replace. Yeah. So you say how we balance development and winning. Development first, and then you're going to enjoy the win.
Yeah.
And you as a coach now are going to have to keep that group, and you're going to have to teach them well. Your day is going to come, and most of my players buy into that. You have to sell your program. You have to let them know day will come that they will win, and win for years too, if you start now and put in now.
Should there be because I write programs. I write junior cricket programs. And one of the things that I always see is that every time you speak to a coach with a particular age group, they have a different idea as to what should be taught at that group and how we should be coaching this group. Should there be, for instance, you have the Ministry of Sports, you have the basketball program. Should there be a curriculum for the different age groups that all the coaches follow? So if guys in Atlas Comprehensive teaching all the 13s, and Gregory's in Arts doing all the 13s, you're teaching them the same thing.
Yeah.
Should there be a curriculum? Because how you teach them may be different, but what you teach at all the 13s, for instance, and I'm just saying, if you're at all the 13s and you say, look, the first 2 weeks of the basketball season, we're teaching them dribbling and shooting. I'm just saying, if Gregory's doing that at All Saints, you're doing that at Arthur. So if there's a switch in terms of coaches or players make a transfer, he just fits right back into. Should we have something similar? Because coaches have different styles.
Yeah,
but in terms of what you teach, shouldn't there be a guideline as to who we teach what, so that we all on the same page?
We all may have different ideology. All coaches have different system, but the fundamentals never change. Right? And I said yes, because too many times kids transfer, kids go to different school, and they say, no, Mr. Gregory don't teach me that, that don't teach me that. So I think it's a we all should, as you say, the ministry should hand out, okay, or the coaches get together and they can plan their own stuff. You understand? Rather than the ministry come and hand down guidelines, we can get together because it's a unit and say, okay, this is the plan, guys. Because let's face it, I'm not hitting any coaches, but some coaches, as you said, because they're so obsessed with winning, they don't teach you fundamentals.
Could that be?
Yes.
Could that be because there is no guidelines?
There's no There's
could
no
that
guidelines.
be because look, that is what they know. But if you give them something and say, look, on the 13s, this is what at this time by week 4 they should be able to at least shoot or pass. Because I was playing with some of your children, and the very important thing that hit me was that as soon as they lost the ball, the first thing that came to their mind, defense.
Right.
They all ran back. And you actually could see, hey, they didn't wake up this morning and did that. Somebody taught them that.
Yes.
So they understood at that early age, listen, if we don't defend, you understand, then we cannot attack because we won't get the ball.
Right.
We have to defend, stop the offense, so we can stay ahead. And I thought somebody is doing some work here.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen any little children, as soon as they lose the ball, they want to come back at you and try, and they all ran back. And they set up, and there was one girl, I don't know if she's the captain, she's saying, no, you move around. And I'm like, wow. This look like somebody was doing some work. This looked like a plan. Something was organized.
I'm not calling the names or the school or anything, but I have a particular player come to my program and they want to play for my school and stuff like that. And the age is 15, going on 16. And then when she started to play, or he started to play with the under 16, she's wondering what happened. Then I put her with the under 13, or him with the under 13, and the under 13 whooping. So she's like, or he's like, how come they're 12 and 11 and 10 and whooping me and I'm 16? So which come back to where you say that person haven't been really given the fundamentals, you know. Even the layups, the 1-2 layup, you got the 10-year-old, the 9-year-old, the 7-year-old doing the 1-2 layup, and that individual still traveling at the age of 15 going on 16. Which come back to where you said there should be a guideline. So you see that person that leave that school and come to my school, they should be on, not really on the same par, but at least they understand the fundamentals.
But guy, if there should be a curriculum, who should be the one that is writing that?
Well, okay, first thing, if we're talking about curriculum, right? As a former teacher, that when you work in the government school, they give you a curriculum that is very specific.
Right.
Week to week, they tell you what to do. And for a lot of teachers, I think that becomes a problem. Especially now that we have that policy where the child moves ahead regardless. It leaves little room for them to fix any issues.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, maybe their reading is they can read, but they can't read well enough, and you might need to take a couple of weeks to deal with that.
So you may have to move on without
solidifying
knowing that
this skill.
Guy is not ready for week 3.
So from that perspective, I'm really of putting in a whole specific curriculum. But with that said, now I definitely see the benefits where within each sport, some kind of program for each coach that encompasses like throughout the whole year, and based on if the season goes as it should, you know, I mean, we just had COVID, so we can see that anything can happen. Something like that should be developed. And that is where, because a lot of the coaches, there's training there, but it's not necessarily the training that they need for what they need to do, where they need to improve. You know what I mean? So a lot of us are just former athletes, and we're just turning around and trying to remember how we were coached and trying to bring that back and regurgitate that. Whereas there's a lot of new ways of training certain skills, ways of training certain understandings of the sport, ways of training the conditioning of the sport, and a lot of us need to be updated on that. You know what I mean? And even with that, that's a hard thing to do, because a lot of the older coaches are very hard-headed. They already feel they know everything there is to know about the sport. You know what I mean? So it might be a thing where I guess we can use it for the new coaches. Maybe over time we can gradually implement a system, because there's two aspects to coaching. You have your knowledge and your understanding of the sport, but then there's also your ability to deal with the children, which is way more difficult than the knowledge of the sport.
Yes.
Knowing the sport is easy. Knowing how to deal with all kind of children who have all kind of different issues and all kind of different needs, that is really where a lot of the challenge and a lot of the faltering with the coaches come from. And all of that needs to kind of be addressed, you know what I mean, in a way that the coaches can take it seriously. You know what I mean? Because as I said, they've put us through some training with that, but a lot of the coaches, they don't take it seriously because, for example, the person that's teaching them isn't really a coach. So they're just explaining things to you that they can't really
demonstrate
and relate to. You know what I mean? So the information that we're getting as coaches, it could be a lot more sharper, which would help us to uplift our sports in a more well-rounded way. You know what I mean? But if we're really trying to uplift our sports, we have to realize that a lot of that comes from the leagues, you know. Because when you look at basketball in the States, the NBA is the top of the top, and they are the ones putting money into the schools, into the high schools, into the primary schools, into the colleges, that creates the kind of level of basketball development that you have. You understand? So we would need like Ababa and all the different leagues to actually step up with what they're doing with their leagues to make the league more profitable. Because at the end of the day, we live in a world where it's about profit, you know. So if you look at why they might be faltering with sports, is because maybe there's not enough money generated from sports itself to even warrant putting all of this into the sport. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that's what everybody look at. How much money we get out of it? How many players do we get that go overseas, that go into college, go into the NBA, and do they come back and do they bring back anything to help us back here so that our sports can grow? We can't even, off the top of your head, I'm sure you can't name one or two people. You know what I mean? And that is where a lot of the holes in the sports for us at this lower level is happening. You know what I mean? Because we need Ababa and you guys need the cricket board and all them to step in and to try and help out. And they need to be successful on their level. They need to have the national team going away and playing all kind of stuff. Ababa needs to be, you know, you're coming in, you're paying maybe $30 because you're coming and sitting on a nice seat, in a nice court, you have nice concessions there for them. I looked it up. How do NBA make money? Concessions, the tickets, licensing, and merchandising. That's all any of these leagues need to be doing to make money. If you're making money off of those four things, you just need to make more of that, and then you have a whole league, right? A lot of them don't even pay attention to that. So this is where we have a lot of holes in our ship, and we can get it going on the water.
Well, go back to the coaches. Do you think that the coaches are the one that? Yes, I think that we have a responsibility to make sure that our policy, because you have your system, right? But at the other hand, we're still working for someone. And do you think that the ministry should oblige to us in terms of trying to get programs for us to help enhance?
But do they give you a program?
No.
Exactly. No, because at the end of the day, and I like Guy's point, is that you do not want to put a specific time on a particular skill. Because basically what the coaches are doing the what to coach. You understand? Because the coaches, because of the training, they know how to coach.
Right.
So what you actually want the planning is the what to coach. And so, for instance, here is it that you guys are teaching in the primary schools. And look, okay, in the primary schools, first we want to be able to catch. We want to be able to pass. We want to be able to dribble. If we look at those three skills, okay, you might find some of them in 3 weeks they can do all of that. But you may find some can do one, some can do two. The important thing is that how do I deal with that? You may say, okay, you know what? We are going to have a little game, but these two who can't catch well, I'm going to go and take them aside and we're going to do some extra work. So the curriculum basically isn't saying to you, after week 2, we move on from those three skills. It is not saying that. It is just saying after week 4, they should be able to throw, catch, and dribble. And you can tick some boxes.
Right.
And say, okay, everybody can do that. Okay, I still have one little boy who can't, so I can do some little work with him. But the rest, we can start to practice maybe the setup, defense and offense setup and so forth.
Yeah, it might be more that it tells you when to introduce something.
Exactly. more
because
when to introduce
because we will be practicing more than one skill during one practice session. You could, you know what I mean? So it's a thing where you have to still rotate through some of the skills anyways, but you'd say, okay, y'all have to introduce this by then. So, you know what I mean? So we know that, well, if by November you guys can't dribble, we know you guys supposed to be dealing with dribbling since September.
But do you think something like that would help the coaches? If you give them a guideline as to when do we introduce so and so. So by the time the athletes reach secondary school, then you can pick it up and manfully know, okay, these are the new students that came from the primary schools from last September. So this is where we're going to start. Obviously, you're still going to see one or two that really still need a little bit of work. But the fact that you have an idea where to start, because when you go to a primary school, you know you got to start from the beginning. But when you go to a secondary school, guy, you expect this was a pick up from when you say, okay, we're going to practice the crossover pass, and they look like, huh?
Hey, I've dealt with some kids almost in secondary and they couldn't even run properly.
There you have it.
They're skipping, not running.
And so that is where I am thinking for all sports. And we don't have to call it curriculum. We can just call it guidelines.
Guidelines, right.
The guideline policy. To say, you know, by the time they finish primary school, these are what they should be able to do. Even though they can't do it well, they can do them. So that when you go to the secondary school and say, okay, we're running today, everybody know, hey, I can run. Some fast and some what, you know everybody can run.
And then what can make it easier for a coach, especially on the secondary level? I think you should have two teams, a development team and, you know, an established team. And that's what I do. So I have that problem where you guys are talk about, because you're going to have players that did not take the game serious in primary school. So they come over now and they're interested in playing in the secondary, and you don't want to turn them away, you know. And that's where you have that development team, and you have that Saturday morning program to help them speed up. You know, so that's basically what I do. But you talk about the guidelines. I think we should have a guideline.
But the big question is, no, this is the question. And we can just use curriculum just for the sake of knowing it is a document. Who should put that together?
I think
the coaches.
To me, the coaches should.
The coaches and then the coordinator.
They can
just
overlook
puts the final touches on it.
But I think the coaches should get more power. They're the one out there. They're the one that have the knowledge, you know.
So obviously, would it be like you're coming down from secondary school? You would probably go and say, listen, when the children come to the secondary school, they can't do X, Y, and Z. So we need to make sure that.
I wanted to make a point before you go any further. You see those basic skills we're talking about? I don't know since when PE didn't give the foundation for a lot of those skills.
But that is where I was going.
Because back in my day, sound like an old man, PE is where we learn to first dribble and learn to pass and everything. So now when you come to basketball practice now, in the first practice maybe the coach can notice, okay, well, some of them can do it better than others, and then go on from there. But as I was saying, one girl couldn't even run properly. I still have big kids that can't skip. If you see them try and skip rope, they can't skip. Some of them, they can't catch the ball, and they're way older than they should be to catch the ball, you know what I mean? And I know some of them, like for wings, a lot of them, one of them, they said the parents don't even let them go outside the house when they're home. Only the brother can go outside and play with the dog, because the daughter don't like the dog. So she just in the house all day, right? And thankfully she come to wings, because over the 2 or 3 years that we were practicing with her, she turned into one that could dribble, shoot, pass, everything. Right? She still have a little attitude, but she could do what we needed her to do.
Here's it, you're complaining about them can't catching a basketball. And I'm dealing with a little round
tennis ball.
Now, is there a disconnect is there a disconnect? Is it that P is going one way and sports? Because as far as I see it, like you mentioned it, P should be the fundamental teaching in terms of you take them out, you run, you jump, you skip, you throw, you catch, you play little games using all the different sports and so forth. So they learn the basics.
Right.
Is it a case that the P teacher should be able to come and say, guy, look, I have two little fellas here. You need to look at them. They can catch and they can jump. You understand? And I think you need to look at these two. Should they be the ones telling the coaches which athletes they think should play what particular sports based on the little skill work that?
Well, my PE teacher, he's supportive for me in that sense, you know what I mean? So I don't know what the other PE teachers are doing, but I still get kids that can do certain little things. So to me, I think what is that the PE teachers, although we like to look at them within the same frat as us coaches, they're still part of the teaching frat, you know. So they deal with their job with the same frustration that the teachers deal with it, as opposed to us coaches. Because we as coaches, we tend to be more enthusiastic about our day-to-day, you know what I mean? Because we only have limited time with them. We might do 1 or 2 hours with that one group, and then if...
Well, so that's where the PE teacher comes in, as you were saying. Because if you are a cricket coach and an athletic coach, and you walk into the school, the PE teacher should approach you. See that young man? Yeah. He's fast. He can run fast. You see this young man? He can jump high. Maybe he don't know the fundamentals, but he can jump. You know, so these are little details that can help you when it comes to the PE teacher. And as a PE teacher, back then, a PE teacher come to all the sports.
Well, I know,
they escort the kids and them to all the sports.
Guys talk about old school, but I was there when the PE teacher was the thing. There was no coaches.
Right.
We went in as a PE teacher and we were responsible for sports, all the sports. We have to prepare them. We have to take them to the games, and so it was like a hands-on. And even though you were not officially a part of the staff, it seems that way because you interacted with all the teachers. You know what I see now is that the coaches are very distant. The coaches don't even go to the school. Most of them now they just turn up at the facility. And so I think the link should be the PE teacher and the coach should be the ones really connecting to see that the students, because based on the setup that we have, how many schools you have? 3 or 4?
I have 4.
Right, so you can't go to all your games. You have quite a few. Based on what I heard the system was, is that the coaches were supposed to prepare the athletes, and the PE teachers should be the ones taking them to the games. But the PE teachers now see themselves as teachers, and so they don't want any part of that. And so that is where
exactly what I was saying.
That is where the problem comes in. So how do we fix that?
As I said again, if you are a coach and you're dedicated and you want to have a good program, because me and my coach, my PE teachers, have a good relationship in terms of I'm interested in doing his job and he's interested in doing my job, Kofi James. So we come together and we plan and we say, okay, when it's basketball, he's going to teach them basketball. So he asks me for a few pointers and stuff like that. And when it's cricket, I'm sure some of the times I come and ask you for equipment, I do the same, right? So there's no disconnect between both of us. And I like my work in relation with my PE teachers and them, because most of my PE teachers come to my game. Lorraine Charles, right? Come to my game and she helped coaches. So in case, and I integrate her into my program too, and him, and Miss Carr. So whenever 2 of my team playing, both of the PE teacher coaching, and I'm giving them advice because they know what I'm doing. They know the players and the skill set. Go ahead. They know the skill set and they know my program.
Yeah. But you see, within every school, you always have like 1 or 2 teachers that will support you as a coach. Or it might not even be the teacher. Like, for example, this year, Mrs. Lawrence, who is the principal for Parish Secondary, she was bringing kids to the games for me. You know what I mean? So at Param, I had Miss Murray. She always helped me with organizing the kids and all that. So you will tend to have at least one good teacher at your school that will look out for you as a coach, and you just have to make sure you don't do anything to mess up that relationship, you know what I mean? But realistically, yeah, it probably should be the PE teacher that you have that relationship with, because they would have the most knowledge
Do
of
both
that.
of you think there's enough primary school playing basketball?
No. In my case, I don't have a lot of primary kids in my schools. So that's where the
Are you at
problem.
any primary school?
Yeah?
Do you have any primary school?
I have 2 primary schools, Param, and I have Nelvi and Gore, formerly known as Willie Keys.
Right.
Right? So Param, I have a lot of participation out of. Nelvi and Gore, I have little participation out of, because the grade 6 class might have 9, 8 children in it. You know what I mean?
How can we make school basketball better? I want you to take 10 seconds and look at it. If you were the coordinator of school basketball, what would you do to make school basketball better?
Well, started from your coaches. You're going to have to provide the things that they need, as I tell my coordinators.
And what things are those?
Equipment and, you know, and all the other support that they're supposed to be given.
So you're talking about balls, talking about
and all poles and stuff like that. But differently, I would like my coordinator to be a part of my program in terms of coming to the school and make himself known and help with the basketball.
all the schools?
No, not necessarily all the schools, but what I'm saying is, to make school basketball, you have to start with the coaches and let them give them what they want to go to these schools, and it's also upon the coaches to go to the school, make themselves known, be a part of the school program.
We're going to have to come back because our time is almost there. But I want to put something to you.
Mm-hmm.
You have Alston Secondary School. Mm-hmm. You have Irene B. Williams. Mm-hmm. Those are 2 secondary schools. You have John Hughes.
Mm-hmm. Cubs Cross.
You have John Hughes. You have Buckley's. Mm-hmm. You have Cubs Cross. You have Liberta. You have J.T. Ambrose. CV Farm. That's 6 secondary schools.
Mm-hmm. 6 primary.
6 primary schools, 2 secondaries. Okay. The secondary school can be one program.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it is about time we zone the island and so all of your school play against each other rather than the Freetown have to go to town to play Cops Cross? And do you think it is time we zone it? So you look about your zone, then maybe your champion school will go into the...
Good point. That's one of the things that I've said that too.
Would that work?
It wouldn't work for certain zones because certain zones is bigger than some, and certain coaches only go to secondary school.
No, but you're zoning it. The coordinator and the coaches, you are zoning it. So we're not looking at sides. The zones will be schools.
Right.
Because you can take, for instance, even the south side, and you can say, okay, we're just going to zone the south side up to Jennings, and then maybe Golden Grove can go with what do you call it? But Mary Pickett's and Green Bay and Five Ryan, you can zone it to suit because you're looking at what the geographics.
Yeah. But you know, the first thing that I was said when I asked that the manpower is not there
to zone it.
And
how many basketball coaches you have?
How much basketball coaches we have?
Yeah.
8. I think it's 8.
Yeah, around
8 basketball coaches. So if you have 4 zones and you have 2 coaches in each zone, you ever referee any matches?
Yes.
So why can't the referees, why can't the coaches, because we just spoke about this development, it's not about winning. Why can't the coaches referee? Are you going to cheat a little 13-year-old girl?
No, most coaches wouldn't. Most coaches wouldn't.
So maybe what it really needs is a discussion.
Yeah.
Because the thing about it is that based on how we see that Cubs Cross leaving to go to St. John's to play against Old Road, and who in the community even know that Cubs Cross have a basketball team? Because they don't play in Cubs Cross.
Well, there has been discussions here and there where we talked about getting the games happening
in different
in
communities.
the different communities. But then you always have the trouble of the people who they get to referee, they can't travel so far and certain things, this and that.
There's some minor things that
minor things that really and truly we probably could get past them, but
only when
it would take organization. Because maybe there's a couple of guys up in Willie Keys who are perfectly qualified to referee that we just don't know about.
Right.
And if we tapped into them and set them up, however, we could probably say, okay, well, I can now have games out in Willie Keys. Because we have 2 referees waiting for us out there, so we just have to walk with people to run the scoreboard, and everything is great.
Well, it's just discussion, as you said, and we started it. And you know, a few games come to Liberty and a few games come to Buckley games, and that was it. I mean, I don't know if it's just to keep the public quiet, because that some, you know, sports program was asking why it can't happen, and then it happened for 2 games and then shut off. And I'm sure that I invited you to one of the games, I think, at Buckley.
Yes.
And the atmosphere, you talk to the headmistress, you say, oh, you got to over school, you got to let school over at 2:15 so the kids can watch the game before the bus.
And watch the game.
And you know the environment. People in the community come out, start selling popcorn and stuff like that. So stop centralizing basketball and put it in the community.
I think we have to come back. Gentlemen, our time is come and gone. I want to thank you all very, 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 very much. Obviously, the producer is waving me off of his set. We have been speaking to Guy Yearwood Jr. and Oslin Gregory, 2 basketball coaches here in Antigua and Barbuda. They're doing wonderful work, and we want to continue to wishing them well. Hope that you continue getting our young athletes, our young boys and girls, to fulfill their goal. Once again, we want to thank you very much for being with us here today on Coach's View. This is Kenny Benjamin. I just want to wish you a pleasant afternoon, and we'll see you next week.